Adults University, where you take adult shit and cut into kid-sized pieces. My name is Miss A, and today we'll be starting a new series called Teacher's Lounge. In this series, you'll begin to know me, Miss A, behind the glasses. So, with that being said, let's get started, shall we? Once upon a time, in a not so far away land, but expensive land of San Francisco, I was just transitioning off of my first apartment and trying to get into my second apartment. Living situation, I should say. Because if you know anything about San Francisco, it's really hard to live by yourself unless you're making a lot of money. So in the 11th hour, this lady, let's call her Kim, called me and said, hey, I have a room to rent, and if you're interested, we can do the paperwork and exchange money and you can move in ASAP. So I was like, awesome. I went and saw the apartment. Nothing about the room or the apartment was amazing, but it was exactly what I needed in terms of location, and it was affordable, at least at the time for me. So I said, yeah, I would sign up for it. In initially meeting Kim, she seemed nice, although she handed me this 5-page documentation in terms of rental agreement, in which she had all the rights and I had very little. And so she had all the rights, like I said, I had very little. My rent was $750 for the room, and I had to rent in 3 months lapse, which was the agreement. So I paid her first and last, and then I paid her a deposit. So I paid her $750 2 times over and $500 deposit. Okay, so I moved in, and I would say my first impressions of Kim was that she was nice, but she seemed like a pack rat. She said that her husband had left her for some girl on the internet, so she needed to sublet to me and another girl who was a foreign student who came to study but wanted to live off campus. So let's just call that girl Lily. So Lily was really pleasant, very sweet, and was happy to live off campus in a pantry, which is what Kim rented to her pantry space for $400. So I paid $750. Lily paid $400, and I don't even know how much Kim was actually paying for her side of the rent. This was a sizable apartment, okay? So when you walk in, you see my room, you see Kim's room, you see a bathroom, you see a living room, and then you go into the kitchen, and then you see a side pantry that leads you out to the back end of the apartment. Anyways, Kim and I guess her husband had ransacked Costco, because you would have thought it was the end of the world the way there was just bulk items of all kinds of things between her bathroom and her kitchen. I couldn't even find space to put my toothbrush or my razor or whatever, I couldn't find any space to put any of my personal belongings in the bathroom. I just had to makeshift space, right? And then in the kitchen, she gave me a shelf space so high that it took me getting onto a chair and then kneeling on top of the counter space just to reach it, which I'm not going to do that every day. So Lily was really kind to share her space, which was a lot more accessible and closer to the ground in terms of cabinet space in the kitchen. Anyways, Kim seemed very sweet, like I said at the beginning, but also there's just this underneath layer of passive aggressiveness I noticed that came up quite quickly. Everything that she asked me to do or pay, I paid. I made no discussions about anything because I just wanted to live and let live. Mind you, this apartment, like I said, wasn't great. Kim had told me that anytime I saw a landlord, I was to tell them I was a friend visiting because she told me that they were racist. So this she told me well after I moved in. So what could I say? I was like, oh, okay. And the apartment was such that it was cold. It wasn't central anything. So I'm a person who loves heat, especially when I need to go to bed. I love heat at night. So I would plug in my heater, and then if Kim plugged in her heater, the whole electricity would go out, and someone would need to go down to the circuit breaker and put it back on. You had to basically be mindful of what you plugged in and turned on, because it would make the whole apartment go without electricity. So she told me I had to be mindful about when I used my heater. So if she used her heater, I couldn't use my heater. You couldn't use a microwave in the kitchen and do something in the bathroom, because the whole apartment would go without electricity again. So yeah, that was the kind of apartment I lived in. On top of that, I remember one time, she never made a cleaning schedule, nor did she tell me where the big trash can outside was, so we could dump our trash outside, in a common garbage to be picked up. And this was like maybe a week and a half or after or so that I moved, maybe two, in which the kitchen trash piled up, and instead of Kim taking it out, she basically dumped the trash right in front of the entryway to the apartment, which drew a lot of flies and smells, and it was just disgusting. And come to think about it, I technically didn't know if it was her, but I'm pretty sure Lily was not that personality, because Lily was just so sweet. Anyways, I ended up having to figure out where the trash can was and threw out the trash, right? I remember being there for about 2.5 weeks or something. Nobody had said anything about, like I said, cleaning. So I took upon myself and did some cleaning, and I was so excited that, I wanted to share with her, like, hey, I'm a good roommate. I went ahead and I did some cleaning. And instead of saying, I text this to her. So instead of saying like, thank you, oh my gosh, girl, thanks, I'm gonna put up a cleaning schedule soon or something like that, she literally just turned around and said, next time, XYZ. And I was just thinking, that's not how you approach somebody who has just done something that you didn't even ask for. Like, she was like, next time, and I was just like, okay. I didn't respond in a negative way. I just said whatever to, like I said, okay to whatever she had said. But all in all, I'm just trying to give you an understanding of the kind of person I was dealing with. Kim was dominant in a very passive-aggressive way. And I remember living with her and noticing all these things that didn't really quite add up, such as, like I said, the landlord, the fact that the whole apartment would go without electricity, and that I was paying $750 for my room and couldn't turn my heater on without basically asking permission. That's absurd. Anyways, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was when she told me I could no longer talk to my mother in my room in the morning while I was getting ready for work. So my mom and I are 3 hours apart. So technically, the best time for me to get her at that time was in the morning time. And so I would catch up with her, see how she's doing, we would talk. And yes, she would be on speaker, but it wasn't like I was yelling through the phone. I was getting ready for work and talking to her via speaker. So Kim and I shared a wall, and because she actually didn't have a particular schedule she could afford to sleep in, what have you, but she said that my conversations with my mom were waking her up, and she needed me to use the living room to talk to my mom. Side note, she didn't want the living room to be used for anything else but social functions, I guess, or entertaining people, because say I took a book and wanted to sit down and relax and then found myself dozing off on the couch, I wasn't allowed to stay there. And I think the living room was the only place that actually got any kind of heat, now that I think about it too. So basically, she was just very controlling in terms of the space outside of our rooms. And I just remember thinking that I had put up with a lot her passive aggressive ways, the fact that the apartment was poorly wired for electricity, the fact that I had to, I felt tiptoe around all her wants and desires, yet I was paying $750 and then not able to use my heater whenever I wanted to. She then went on to say that she really liked me as a roommate and wanted me to sign up for 3 more months to live with her. To which in my head I was thinking, hell no. But I smiled and just agreed quietly that I would. So she went back to her room. So I told you she didn't have a traditional work schedule. At the time, I believe she was working for the courts in terms of being a freelance translator, translating English to Spanish and Spanish to English for those who needed to go to court. And also, I think she made some kind of side money by traveling to Honduras and delivering packages to people who had family in America and vice versa. So she had a trip coming up. And in that time that she went away, which was probably, I think, the following weekend, I got on Craigslist and I looked, and I thankfully found a place that was just up the street, so same neighborhood, still affordable. I think it was just $25 more, so $7.75. And I wrote a letter to Kim saying, it's been nice, but I'm moving. So after not talking to me for about a week, she texted me and said she'd like to show my room, which I'm all for because I want her to get a new roommate. But I told her that I needed her to wait until I came back so I could tidy up a little bit before she showed my room. To which she gave a bad attitude, bad response to, right? Like she wasn't feeling it. And I had to remind her quickly that I had been agreeable and very nice, and I did everything that you asked so that you can do this one thing for me. And yeah, she backed down and agreed to move the appointment so that I could come back home and do what I need to do to have her show the room. Shortly after that, I got sick, and I mean so sick that I had to stay home from work. And somewhere in our sublet agreement, she had said, like, when I'm showing your room, you can't be around. And so here comes another appointment. She wants to show the room, but this time I'm sick and I'm actually home. And she told me that I had to get up and leave. And I said, no, I've paid for this room and I'm actually sick. Like, this isn't just me wanting to hang out. This is me not feeling well. I said, I won't say anything and I'll sit up so that you can show the room, but I'm not leaving. Anyways, she couldn't do anything but to agree to that too. Moving on, I basically, was quiet, still a good roommate to live with. She told me that she wasn't going to do a walkout with me, that I was to leave my bedroom and apartment keys on the mantle in my bedroom, and that she would send me my refund. So I said, okay. So time passes and I'm settled into my new space, I'm happy, and I get a check from her in the mail that is for $270 something. Now mind you, my deposit was $500. I stayed there for 2 months. 2 months. And I did absolutely nothing to cause her to deduct any of that amount of money. She took out money for a maid service that she never used when I was living there. She took out money for cleaning supplies and things that she had told me were free for me to use, that she was giving both me and Lily access to so that we could clean the apartment when we needed to. She itemized and deducted for electricity that I paid for with a cashier's check. So I called her and I said, I don't know what you think this is, but I'm not cashing it. I want my full $500 deposit. And I said, there's things that you took out that, I never even got to use or to see. And so she started to explain herself. I said, but wait, I paid you cashier's check for my part of the electricity payment. And I have the receipt here. So you need to look those things up. So after going back and forth, she still wanted to argue. I said, if you don't give me my $500 back, if you don't make this a full $500 check, refund to me, deposit refund, I will call the San Francisco rent board and tell them that you're renting. And I forget how that conversation ended, but basically it was just like, I'm not playing, give me my money. I haven't done anything to deserve you deducting whatever amount of money that she deducted within 2 months. So anyways, I eventually got my money. And I don't regret anything that I did, because everything that I did at that time was, I think, in line with being a good roommate. And all this passive aggressiveness and bullying, basically, lighthearted bullying, I would say, that she was doing, I put up with it. And for her to turn around and try to, you know, fleece me for whatever amount of money that she took from my deposit, I think she thought I was a fool. And I quickly showed her that I was up on game. So that's it. That's the story I wanted to share. Well, that's it for today. Just a little story about a time in which I held my refund deposit for ransom. Thank you for attending class. Go ahead and do your homework by subscribing to this channel, commenting, and thumbs up at this video. My name is Miss A, and until next time, remember, you must be this tall to pay bills.